Good evening, everybody. This is Don Woolley in Sahuarita, Arizona, and this is the Sahuarita Tea Party live stream starting at 5 o'clock Arizona time. Welcome, everybody. I can't see you, but it's good to see you. We have some Tea Party Patriots news we're going to go through, and we're also going to talk about election fraud. Now, unfortunately, Senator Sahuarita had to withdraw from her interview tonight, so we're going to catch her later in September. But we're still going to talk about election fraud, and some just so happens some news came out of Pima County last night. A report was issued by the Election Integrity Commission, and with some interesting information. So couldn't find anybody to talk about that tonight with us, but we'll have somebody on like David Eppheimer, the GOP chairman, or Bill Beard, who is on the Election Integrity Commission. So look forward to that. But we're going to talk about the report. Anyway, I heard it on Channel 13 KOLD. Anyway, I'll start over here. We're going to go through some Tea Party Patriots information for the week, their weekly summary and call to action. And then we'll get into election fraud and see what's going on with the Pima County and a new report that was issued by the Election Integrity Commission. Really interesting results. I had them sent. I had the script sent from KOLD to myself directly today. It was real nice of them to do that. That was read on the air last night on channel. It was actually channel 11, but it's 13 News that starts at 9 o'clock. That's where I heard it, and I spent all morning researching, trying to find this story, and couldn't find it on their website. As it turned out, the person at KOLD helped me, which was really nice of him, and sent me the actual transcript from the news report. So I'm going to read that to you, and it certainly has to do with election fraud. So anyway, we'll get started here, and with the Tea Party Patriots information. First thing we'll talk about is we know they're having a party back in Washington, D.C. in September. It's a 10th anniversary party, and we would like to let you know about that. If anybody has any inclination of going, Patty and I are not going to go, but we don't plan on it right now. But they're going to have some really interesting things to do. They're going to have a rally. I'm going to read a little bit of this to you. They're going to have a rally and September 19th on the west lawn of the Capitol. The time right now is 10 or 11 a.m. in the morning, and start time depends on how fast they can get set up. They'll also have a reception on Thursday night, the 19th. Location for the reception is a room in one of the Senate office buildings. The room is reserved, so that's kind of a good deal. And they've also arranged on September 20th to have a White House briefing from 11:30 to 12:30, which is going to require people to register to get into the White House and all that you have to go through. They've requested to have President Trump or Vice President Pence address the group. So they'll know about that as they get closer to the event. So wouldn't that be fun if you wanted to go and do that? We'll bring you all the information we can about this, and any video, any transcripts, any news. It should be really good. They're also going to have a training session. They've reserved the Heritage Foundation's auditorium is available for training on that Friday, so that'll be good. And if you go to a website, it's called teaparty10.com, teaparty10.com for the 10th anniversary. And they have information about hotels and dining and that kind of thing. They don't recommend any hotels, and they don't have any special rates, but you can go to that webpage, teaparty10.com, and find out that information. For travel, they say that they suggest you leave on Wednesday, fly in on Wednesday night at the latest, and leave Friday evening at the earliest. And they said if you want to stay longer over the weekend to do tourist activities, feel free to do so. And if you have any questions about the events in September, you can email Kevin Moonahan, and his email is kevin@teapartypatriots.org, kevin@teapartypatriots.org. Now, Tea Party Patriots has also had some T-shirts made up, and they're going to... or they are selling these T-shirts, and they're basically Stop Socialism T-shirts. You can go to Tea Party Patriots and to the website, teapartypatriots.org, and go to their store and buy a T-shirt if you'd like. Now, other news and information. With the media and tech companies trying their hardest to keep conservatives and our ideas out of the spotlight, it is important to make sure we are working as hard as we can to inject Tea Party values into the national conversation. Feel free to share these on social media or with your email network. So last week's call to action, there was a highlight of Raise Your Voice Against Red Flag Laws. Patty and I were lucky enough to get their letters to the editor published in the Green Valley News this past Sunday. I believe it was in there, so that's good. And we thank the editor for that. There's also a Second Amendment how-to guide, and it gives you a lot of good information about how to fight this, because this is about being guilty until you can prove your innocence, and that's not really what we're about in this country. So there's also a video, a socialism story about Oscar Arizia that is interesting to watch. He came from a socialist country, tells his story. And let's see here. It looks like, and by the way, all of this information was sent to you in the Google group. If you belong to the Google group, then you've got this information and all the links, etc. So I'm just kind of going through that list. Last week's blog post, you may not know it, but we post a lot of original content on our website that is accurate, true news, and makes for great social media posts, or emailing your friends and networks. And they say, please feel free to share the content far and wide. Who knows? The blog posts are a great way to find out where Tea Party Patriots Action stands on particular issues of the day. So if you have a friend, you can mail them this information. There's a blog post. Kamala Harris calls ICE raids a campaign of terror. Another one is China is responsible for America's opioid crisis. And another one is we must start using the biometric system at the border. And also Jenny Beth Martin's journal, The Tea Party Isn't Going Anywhere. She wrote a great article about that. I think it was Rand Paul that stated that the Tea Party was dead after they approved this latest budget, 2-year budget thing. And of course, Jenny Beth disagreed with that and wrote an article about it. The Tea Party isn't dead, and Tea Party Patriots is alive and well. And boy, we hear all these people every Sunday night on our call, so on national call for local coordinators. So they're working hard, and they come up with these great action items and things to do every week, which Patty and I love. So Another article on the blog is South American countries are wising up when it comes to socialism. Yeah, I bet they're wising up in Argentina and Venezuela for sure. And here's a reminder, and we talked about this last week, I think. The Trump administration is fighting back for conservatives in danger of being wrongfully censored, shadow banned, or suspended on social platforms. The White House launched a tool, and there's a link in that Google group mail that I sent you that allows citizens who suspect they have been affected to share their stories with President Trump. You know, and that's great. Hosted on Typeform, the tool asks users for screenshots and links of the offending content and provides a text field where users describe the actions taken against them by the platform. A separate question points users to an extensive user agreement and makes clear that you understand the form is for information gathering only. Conservatives nationwide can share their stories with the Trump administration and stop the abuses of free speech. So that's a good thing. That's a big problem on social media, and we've got to find a way to overcome that. So, if you guys have any photos or videos from any sign waving rallies or office visits or whatever, campaign things, maybe if you're working on somebody's campaign, send them to Patty and I. We'd be happy to get them up and get them to the Tea Party Patriots. They'll publish everything, so put it on their website. They like that stuff. This is a program note that the Tea Party Patriots Action Live, which includes the Washington Report, a legislative update from Bill Pasco, who does a great job reporting on what's going on in the Senate and the House every week. Now, you don't hear that stuff from anybody else. This is really an original report, and it's really good, and it's eye-opening, and everybody ought to listen to it. Call to action items and a Q&A session are also part of that live Tea Party Patriots Action Live. It's hosted by Jenny Beth Martin, and it's held each Monday that Congress is in session at 1 o'clock Eastern Time. That'd be 10 o'clock Arizona time, open to all supporters. You can catch it live on Facebook, on the website, or the GoToWebinar, which is sent out. The link's sent out in an email, which we can get to you guys every week. And that's about it for the news for the week. Pretty busy week, and Tea Party Patriots are working hard to preserve our freedoms. They believe in the Constitution, they believe in smaller government, and they keep fighting for those things. So, and they really do a good job fighting for President Trump. We're going to take a short break, and then we're going to get into election fraud. We'll talk about this report from Pima County. There's some other stats that are pretty interesting that I've heard from around the country through Judicial Watch, who is doing a lot of work in that area, along with fighting the deep state in Washington, D.C. So anyway, stay tuned. We'll be back in about 5 minutes. Thanks. Okay, everybody. Hi, we're back. Apologize for the technical difficulties to start out the last hour. We had a problem with our microphone, and that problem was we were not using the microphone. So this probably helps. I'm going to get into talking about the election fraud issue now, and election fraud, a lot of people, they want to call it voter fraud, but we listened to this lady in Texas who's going to be on with us. She's going to be here early September. She's going to come on for an interview, and which is really nice of her. And she's fought the hard fight in Texas and actually taken legal action that she's won some cases. And I think it's Dr. Brantley's her name, and she calls it election fraud because she says it's the process, the entire process, which in some states is unproven and untested, and therefore is subject to breakdowns and fraud. And she also makes a good point about candidates. If voters bring a lawsuit after an election, it's not going to go anywhere because you don't have standing as a voter. The only people that have standing after an election are the candidates themselves, and the candidates need to stand up, and they need to stand up and be counted if there's fraud involved with their election. And if they lost an election that they don't think they lost, and there was some shenanigans in the voting process or in the counting or whatever, they should take legal action because they do have standing. And what you find out is, they're going to be called for sour grapes, sore losers, and blah 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 blah. But I think she makes a really good point about that. We invest time and money in these candidates, and we vote for them, and you want to know that your vote is counted, and that it's going to the person, and that you're not being nullified by some person's vote that shouldn't be counted. We agree with you need to count every vote, but we don't agree with you need to count illegal, fraudulent votes. Okay, they don't need to be counted. So that's another thing that kind of sticks in your craw a little bit. So anyway, there's election fraud and there's voter fraud in there, and I think voter fraud falls under election fraud. Now, I heard this week, and I saw it on Twitter, a tweet from Judicial Watch, and they said that 900,000, that's 9 with 5 zeros, 900,000 illegal aliens voted in Maryland and Virginia in 2018. Okay, and I believe they said 400,000 of those were in Fairfax County, Virginia alone. So that kind of gives you the magnitude of the voter fraud, election fraud going on in this country. And I dare say, there was plenty of fraud in California. California's problem was with ballot harvesting in Orange County, where used to be a strong Republican. Used to be a stronghold for Republicans, and they've had Orange County's had Republican representation for years. And all of a sudden, lo and behold, in 2018, they lost, I don't know if it was 4 seats or 5 seats, and the votes just kept pouring in, boy. They were all leading or ahead in their races, and then all of a sudden they're behind, and all of a sudden they lose. And that was all because of ballot harvesting. Ballot harvesting is legal in California, and they just filled out the ballots and figured out how many they needed and ran them into the elections department, and they counted them, and oh boy, we won. And in Florida, the same thing happened. Down in Dade County, they tried to pull the same thing. So luckily, people got wise to them down there, and the governor got onto them, and Governor Scott at the time, and the governor candidate, Ron DeSantis, he was on top of it, and so they caught him, and And, they got that all kind of straightened out, I think. So anyway, Ron DeSantis turned out to be the new governor, and they did win the other senator seat. Governor Scott ran for the Senate and won, defeating the incumbent. So who was really, the incumbent down there was worthless anyway, and he was already accused of some crimes that he skated out of. So I don't, whatever. But they won, and that's the thing. They fought for it, they won it. So we got to get these candidates. Particularly, you think about a large PAC. You're going to invest a lot of money in a candidate, and then he's going to get to the end of the line and lose by a few votes, and you find out there's some election fraud going on, and some things happened, and legally you're in a position to challenge that, and you don't do it. Why do I want to invest money in someone who doesn't want to fight for it? You remember the guy in Minnesota that lost to the crazy comedian guy that was the most worthless senator in the history of the Senate, Al Franken. And I can't remember the guy's name in Minnesota, but he had a good case, and he extended it for a few days, but he didn't really get into the legal fight. We don't have the money. Well, he probably could have got the money from the Republican Party if they were willing to really go for it. And anyway, that's just one example of what we're talking about. So let me get in to tell you what was reported on it was actually KOLD Channel 13 last night, but it was the 9 o'clock news that comes on. It's on local station Fox 11 at 9 o'clock. So, and the reporter was Dan Marys, and here's word for word what he said last night. The Pima County election system is being overwhelmed. That's according to a brand new report from the county administrator. Actually, it's from the county Election Integrity Commission. The report focuses in a large part on issues with early and mail-in ballots from the 2018 election. According to the report, about 80% of the votes came in that way. So 80% of the vote came in through early and mail-in ballots. In the report, Administrator Chuck Huckleberry says, and again, that's the Election Integrity Commission, final results were delayed in some cases up to a week and a half after the election, and something that creates questions about the integrity of the vote, even if the delay was necessary. The report goes on to highlight some of the biggest concerns. Those include how signatures are verified, something the report says comes down to a judgment call by individual employees and could be impacted by human error, possible bias, and other factors. It also highlights issues with potential ballot harvesting. Now, 2 years ago, the Arizona legislature passed a law against ballot harvesting. And a guy named A.J. LaFaro was instrumental in fighting that. And he lives up in the Phoenix area. And he was instrumental in fighting for that and getting that taken care of, because he witnessed ballot harvesting in person and actually confronted a person in the elections office up there about it. So he knew what he was talking about. So though it is illegal to collect ballots from other people, the report claims election officials are not enforcing the law and generally accept all ballots dropped off on election day. Part of the problem there is, our elections person, Ann Rodriguez, has told everybody that they have to count every vote. Well, again, you don't have to count every vote. You don't have to count votes that are fraudulent or illegal. So again, though it is illegal to collect ballots from other people, the report claims election officials are not enforcing the law and generally accept all ballots dropped off on election day. To solve the problem, the report recommends several changes, including using military-grade systems to electronically verify signatures. And in cases where manual verification is necessary, employees with the recorder's office should not be able to access a voter's party affiliation. In other words, when they're verifying a signature, they don't need to know what party that person's from. It has nothing to do with what they're doing. So I think it's a pretty good point. When it comes to ballot harvesting, ballots should only be accepted from the individual voter, and each voter's identity should be verified the same way it would be done if they were voting in person. Hear, hear. They've got to find a way to enforce that, and this is something that somehow the poll watchers need to get involved with in 2020. This has got to be watched very carefully, and it's got to be dealt with. And we believe, I think Patty and I believe, President Trump is going to he's going to be strong on voter fraud, and he's going to. I'm going to send this summary of this report and the report to his director in Arizona, this Brad Sexton, and let him see all this, because they need to. This has got to be. This is going to be a fight. It's going to be a battle. They're going to try everything they can to defeat President Trump, and in the long run, he's going to be reelected. We're confident of that, but we still need to fight for him and protect him and protect his flank whenever we can. So this also says we reached out to the Pima County Recorder's Office to get their reaction to this report, but they refused to comment. Yeah, I wonder why. I don't think I would comment either. So anyway, a big thanks to David Kelly at KOLD for sending me that transcript. That was really nice of him to do that. I could not find this information on their website this morning, so I thought maybe I was hearing things last night before I went to bed. So I'm not going crazy yet, folks. So hey, anyway, yeah, that's pretty interesting stuff. And we also have a information from California. I know Judicial Watch has gone. They've gone to court out there, and they're getting. I think it's almost 2 million signatures removed from the voters' rolls in California. The catch there is that I heard through another election fraud person in Nevada that they are going to take 8 years to remove those almost 2 million voters. So is that going to do any good to go 4 election cycles before you're removing? And how many more are they going to stack up on top of that in 8 years? So, I don't know. There's another person in Nevada that's really good on voter fraud. She's worked it out there, and they put together a pretty strong case in Nevada and actually shared it with the FBI, and the FBI under Obama didn't do anything. So yeah, big surprise, right? So I think we're going to try to get her on her too, if I can get her to respond on Twitter or some other way. I'm trying to contact these people. We're trying to get people from anywhere about different topics, and sometimes we're successful, sometimes we're not. Sometimes it conflicts with our schedule, and so I don't know. We're trying to get really good folks on here and talk about this. So in this past legislative session, and this is something that Senator Sahuarita was going to talk about, she had 3 bills written and passed and signed by the governor, having to do with the election process, etc. You remember in Maricopa County, they had the problem where they claimed that some voters weren't getting the chance to vote or whatever was going on up there, and that new county recorder, who's now a Democrat, he opened up on his own initiative, opened up a bunch of emergency voting centers and to let people vote. Well, the problem with that is he only opened them up in Democrat strongholds up there, Democrat precincts. So he didn't open up any of them in Republican areas. So there's a lot of fuss about that, and people still are questioning the results of some of the Secretary of State, the Superintendent of Schools, those results, the Sinema and McSally. Not sure why McSally didn't take this full board all the way to as far as the courts would take it to fight the election with Sinema. There are a lot of strange things, and you can see in Pima County, they probably stacked up votes for Sinema in Pima County like you wouldn't believe. So. Anyway, so some of the bills that were passed, and signed by the governor last session, SB 1090, it prescribes before voting at an emergency voting center, a voter must declare a personal voting emergency by signing a statement that they are experiencing an emergency preventing them from voting at the polls on election day. Okay, so there's a good thing. Also, there was a bill, SB 1072, which requires a voter to present the same proof of identity at an early voting location that voters approved in Proposition 200 in 2004 for Election Day voters at polling centers. So there's another thing with voter ID. You know, they have to show proof of identity even at an early voting location. The third bill signed by Governor Ducey, SB 1054, resolves litigation brought shortly after the 2018 election regarding the number of days allowed to verify a questionable signature. In an effort to provide consistency among the counties, they will have no more than 5 days to verify any questionable signature submitted, a deadline which previously did not exist. So that's a good thing. That has a lot to do with provisional ballots. And, we have a lot of doubt about provisional ballots, and not only in early voting too. Early voting is a strategy the Democrats put together a long time ago, and Republicans fell for it, along with motor voter laws where people can register to vote when they get their driver's license, and these people at the DMV fill out the party for you, so without even knowing. Some people don't even know. Excuse me. Some people don't even know they're registered to vote. They didn't even know it even happened. So, anyway, they have things. We have things going on that we really need to keep an eye on. Election fraud, voter fraud. We'll find some other examples, and like I said, we're going to have other people on here to talk about this. I'll try to get Pima GOP Chairman David Eppeheimer to come on. He signed this report that this news story was written about, and also Bill Beard, who's on the Election Integrity Commission. He ran for elections a few years ago, and he was the former GOP chairman before David. So they're both signatories on this report, and so it'd be nice to get them in here and talk about this. And so listen, folks, I'm going to take a short break, and I hope you're getting some good information here, and we'll be back in a few minutes. Hi, ladies and gentlemen, we're back, and I've got my microphone in front of me now, so you should be loud and clear here. Want to tell you a little bit about next week's program. It's on Wednesday. It'll be Jeff Ooch. Jeff has an organization called Heirs to the Republic, and at one time he was also involved with the Compact for America, and still may be. But we're going to have Jeff on, and Jeff is a constitutional expert. He has spoken at Tea Party meetings down here before. At our meetings, we've had him more than once, and he's always very popular. And we'll get a little bit about the Constitution, and we'll talk about red flag laws and the Second Amendment, and let Jeff get into some of that. And also, we want Jeff to tell you about his, he has a big shindig every spring. I'm not sure what he's got planned this year, but we'll ask him about it. He usually gets some really good people to come into town, and I think he had Sheriff Clark here last year or the year before, I'm not sure, but he gets real good folks to come in and speak to Sonians, and so we'll let him talk about that and ask him about that and some other things. So that's Jeff Ooch next Wednesday at 5 o'clock Arizona time. And then the week after that, we've got Dr. Laura Presley, who I may have misstated her name, but it's Dr. Laura Presley. She's from Texas. She lives in the Austin area. She's fighting election fraud in Texas. She's won some cases in court. She actually ran for I believe she ran for the city of Tucson, the city of Austin town council, and there were some shenanigans with that election, and she fought it as the candidate, which, and she makes that point. She had standing. You have standing as a candidate to fight an election that may have had something go awry. So anyway, that's Dr. Laura Presley. Dr. Laura Presley. Sometimes I get her mixed up with Sheila Brantley, who's involved. She runs the NRA's School Shield program, and she was here for a symposium on keeping schools safe. Actually, it was about a year ago, this August. And we've actually got that up on YouTube now, so you can go watch that presentation. It's very good. There's some really good speakers, and unfortunately, the attendance wasn't very good, and a lot of reasons for that. But anyway, it was well put together, well done, and the people were great. So anyway, that's Sheila Brantley. She's with the NRA. But Dr. Laura Presley will be on after Jeff Ooch. And then after that, we have a guy named Alan Corwin. Alan Corwin is a gun law expert in Arizona. And we want to talk to him about red flag laws and some of the things that are being talked about now, new background checks, etc., all the outlawing the AR-15 or whatever their definition of a assault rifle is. They usually bring up the AR-15, but there's, and the AR-15 is not an assault rifle. It's not a military weapon. It's a rifle. So if it's not one thing, it's another. If they can get their foot in the door on one thing, they'll try whatever they can. So we've got to oppose these things. I think we believe in the Second Amendment, and I think you folks do too. And we have the right to keep and bear arms, and the Constitution says it shall not be infringed, which means hands off. So red flag laws are you're talking about being guilty before you can prove your innocence, and that's not the way we handle jurisprudence in this country. So anyway, that's our lineup for the next 3 weeks. We got Jeff Ooch, and then we have Dr. Laura Presley, and then we've got Alan Corwin. And then I think by hopefully by September, maybe 18th or the 25th, we can get Senator Michelle Ugenti-Rita to come back to us and come back with us. Come on, and we'll have a good interview and talk election fraud again. So anyway, that's our lineup for the next 3 weeks. So I hope you all enjoyed this. I enjoyed doing it, bringing you the information. And we'll see you down the road. We'll see you at a meeting or something, some event going on in Green Valley. I think tomorrow morning, Andy Biggs is going to be over at Quail Creek at 9 a.m. So people can go over there and see him. Just tell him at the gate you're going up to the clubhouse to see Representative Biggs. And then there's we heard about a meeting on Saturday that Patty and I are probably going to attend. And upcoming September 21st is the Republican Club Roundup. Tickets are going pretty fast, so I wouldn't wait too long if you're going to buy tickets. There's limited seating. A place, Girl in the Greens only holds about 110 people, so that's the cutoff. So anyway, Patty and I will see you down the road. This is Don Woolley saying goodnight from Sahuarita, Arizona, and God bless you all, and thanks for watching.